My biggest takeaway podcast.
Bradley, man, welcome to My Biggest Takeaway podcast. Dude, thank you so much for coming here today. It has been a wild ride, I know, getting to learn you, your business that you do with the lady, Miss Jennifer. And I'm excited to dive into your story and the unique audience in which you help, and then the business that you've been able to develop that I think a lot of coaches are going to hear about today. So, dude, thank
Yeah,
you so much.
thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And so, in your own words, who is your ideal client? Who do you guys help?
So we primarily help menopausal women and busy parents, and our whole thing is our mission is to help those individuals, give them science-based approaches to weight loss that are going to create simplicity and help them break through the narrative of diet culture that they've been fed for the decades that they've been fed that bullshit.
And so, how did you come into working with Jennifer?
So when I started the company, it was actually back in COVID. I had a personal training gym in Beverly Hills for 8 years. COVID hit, wiped everything out from under me. At that time, I was married, single income household, just bought a house, had a baby on the way, lost everything, and had to pivot. I was a sports nutrition specialist. I was a personal trainer. And then I started building an online business, not knowing a damn thing about the online space. I had a big Instagram account way back when we all started Instagram, just shoveling money into it, no ROI on it. And yeah, then I came, Nutrition Build Strength was born. Well, it wasn't always Nutrition Build Strength. But Jennifer, the way we met each other is the company grew within the Peloton community. It was a pandemic. I happened to buy my ex-wife a Peloton the Christmas prior to the pandemic. And I just saw an opportunity to help frustrated Peloton riders because at the end of the day, they're spinning their wheels, going nowhere, making progress for a little bit, doing nothing about their nutrition. And I saw a window and I kind of grew the company within the Peloton world. Jennifer actually had it was like 6 or 8,000 person Facebook group at the time. She was a pretty big name within the Peloton community. She was not monetizing it. I wanted to just pick her brain. I brought her on the podcast when I used to have a podcast way back when, just to pick her brain. People will tell you that her friends, especially, will be like, you guys were flirting. We were not flirting. She was flirting. Eventually she was at, she said she was. I'm oblivious to all of that stuff. I have zero radar on that. Yeah. And at the time she was working for AHA. She was pretty high up in the American Heart Association, wanted to make a career change and do something she was more passionate about. She is perimenopausal. She's what we call our 90-pound weight loss survivor. I told her, I was like, okay. I was like, this is after probably like a month after the podcast. I was like, you really want to work for me? I'm like, go get your PN1. Thinking she's never going to go get her PN1. Like, she's got a great job at an American Heart Association. Well, a month later, she came back. She goes, got it. I was like, well, shit. So
those that don't know, what is PN1?
Precision Nutrition. It's a nutrition certification. In my opinion, it's one of the most credible ones out there. But she went and she got it. She also, when she was in her undergrad, she was going to do pre-med. So knowing that doesn't really shock me that she completed it that fast. Sure. But she came over, she started working with members. And I knew the second that she started working for me, I didn't know that I was going to fall in love with the love of my life, but I knew she wasn't going to work with people. I'm like, that's not where your strength is. Your strength is in building community, growing a company, big picture ideas. And that's how we ended up where we are today.
Nice. And so where are we at today? How many clients are you guys serving?
How many clients are we serving? That's a really good question. Because of the scholarship we just had, I cannot tell you. I'm going to guess between 150 and 170.
Nice. And for those that know, or that don't know rather, is that you guys are much more than just like general health and fitness.
Yeah, right? That's not what we are at all.
The opposite of what you guys do, right? We're on a very fundamental hormonal level where we're trying to fix people's shit, not just make them skinny.
Correct. So we actually don't have any coaches that work for us. The people that our members work with are registered dietitians. We come from a more medical perspective. The entire program is based off a sample study that I conducted back in 2020. It was monitored by registered dietitians. We implemented that sample study with a trial group. And that's how we have the program we have today. I worked with members for about the first year and a half. And my mentor at the time, one thing he told me, he goes, before you're ready to hire somebody else. And thank God he did that. The first person I hired happened to be a registered dietitian. I kind of knew I wanted to move in that direction. I wanted these people to have the most credentialed experts possible in the industry working with them. Since we're not dealing with your 20-something-year-old that wants to get on stage, we're dealing with women who have run the gamut: Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Atkins, South Beach, keto, like all the shit. They've gone to the functional doctors, they've gone to the GPs, and they have no answers. And I wanted to make sure that when they came and worked with NBS, that they were going to have the most credentialed experts that were actually going to listen to them and could work with them from a medical perspective.
From your point of view, let's get a little touchy for a sec.
Go for it.
What are your thoughts on general doctors providing weight loss advice?
Are we? I thought you were going to ask me about coaches. Talking about GPs providing weight loss advice.
Yeah, well, like, I'm go to my local doctor because I have, I feel like I have strep throat, and then they're giving advice on losing weight, and then they put in some type of protocol while they're currently 50 pounds overweight themselves.
So I think they should hand me their white coat and let me step into their office and see how they feel. That's how I think. That's how I think. That's what I think about it. And honestly, here's what it comes down to. We talk to women all the time that have told us or me or whatever that they went to their doctor and they have high blood pressure or they have high cholesterol or they've put on the average weight of about 7 pounds per year, and they're like, you should go on a 1,200 calorie diet. Just pick a number right out of fucking thin air. And it's like any moron can pick a number out of thin air that's going to put just about anybody into a caloric deficit. Is that safe or healthy or sustainable? Absolutely not. Is that going to teach them anything long run? Is that actually going to change any kind of behaviors? Absolutely not. Just like I have no business looking at a member and being like, you know what? I think we should put you on some, it sounds like you have hyperthyroid. I've never looked at your blood panel. I have no idea what your T3 levels are like or anything like that. I think we should put you on some thyroid medication. That's I feel it's fucking ridiculous. You should stay in your lane.
Do you think, I already know the answer to this, but I was going to ask, do you think that MDs or people in general should receive more education inside nutrition?
No, I don't. Absolutely not. And here's why. If you go to a barber, because you want a very specific kind of haircut. I'm guessing, do you go to a barber or do you go to a salon?
I typically go to a salon at this point.
Okay, you go to a salon, fine.
When I was in Jersey getting a high fade that was tight, a barber. Yeah, exactly, like that. Now okay. I get the classic, old white man haircut, and I just go to anywhere that's open.
I mean, I feel like my high fade is a pretty old white man haircut at this point. Well, Latino haircut, but whatever. No, here's the reason why. You can be a jack of all trades. You absolutely can be. But at the end of the day, are you the best person to be working with that individual when it comes to nutrition and weight loss? No. Should a GP be prescribing hormone therapy? No. Should a personal trainer be prescribing nutritional advice? No. Stick in your lane. Be the expert in your industry. Hone your craft. Know your craft like the back of your hand and do that thing really fucking well. That's my opinion on it. Do GPs need to get off their high horse, or a lot of doctors need to get off their high horse and realize that they don't need to have all the answers, and it's okay to say, I don't know that. Let me refer you out to this specialist that does know that answer. That's what I think should be happening.
I can respect that. 100%.
Wasn't the answer you're expecting, was it?
It wasn't, because I personally believe that from any position somebody's giving advice, you need to know a little something on the topic of health.
I don't disagree there.
So, like, before we prescribe anything, before we put a Band-Aid on something, let's figure out why we need a Band-Aid in the first place.
That I can agree with. It's not that I don't think. Sorry, maybe I misunderstood the question.
No, I think yours was essentially just more, essentially targeted. Mine's like, I just think they should know more, and then if needed, we can then essentially sub that out to somebody, or give a recommendation on where somebody should go. But I also find that majority of people in the medical space are in fact unhealthy themselves, and I'm just not a big fan of taking advice for somebody that doesn't practice that advice, because you have no personal experience on whether that works or not.
So when we actually started out during the pandemic, we had over 70% of our membership were medical professionals when we first started out in the pandemic. Everything from GPs to hormone specialists to RNs to frontline workers, over 70% of our membership for about the first year were medical professionals. And we still have a huge, I don't know the percentage anymore because we've grown, but we still have a huge percentage of our members that are medical professionals.
Why do you think that is?
That we have medical professionals? Partly, I think it's because, again, our company is different. We do come from a medical background. We do come from a medical perspective. But the other thing is, I think that the medical professionals that we do work with understand that they went to school for, 10 years or 12 years or 15 years. And when John Goodman said this best, and the only thing I don't like about it is he says wealthy people, but I'm going to say wealthy people, but I say educated people. He said wealthy people hire experts so that they don't have to spend the years learning or the years making the mistakes. And I think the medical professionals that we work with understand that instead of going through the learning curve, which they've already done, they've already tried all the garbage out there. To expedite that process, they need to find the expert in the industry. It's not their job to go get their master's in nutrition and dietetics. It's not. It's not even their job to go sit on YouTube and try to figure this out on themselves. They're educated individuals that go, I know I have enough brain capacity to do what I do well. And I know that I need somebody that's going to do what they do well. That's also going to educate me through the process enough so that I'm not with them indefinitely, but I'm going to make sure I hire somebody that's going to get me to where I want to go the safest and most effective way possible.
Part of me leans the fact that I think that, not to disagree with you there, I think oftentimes when I have initials beside my name, I also want to hire somebody else that has initials beside their name.
Yeah. And that's I've never even thought about it that way. That's very valid. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. You always want to, you work with people that are alike. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yep.
And so you give them credit because they have credentials, which is where credit comes from, is from credentials. Right. And so versus hiring this coach who's not necessarily licensed in those nature, but we have the experience, we still view that, the fact that you have that sheepskin to me is worth more than your experience. And I respect that because I also have one.
And they understand, one of our requirements when we're hiring RDs is we don't hire anybody that has less than 3 years of clinical experience under their belt. We don't. And our members know that. And so I think knowing that they not only have they gone through their master's in nutrition dietetics, they've done their internship program, they've practiced for a minimum of 3 years in a clinical setting. Yeah, when you're working with, experts in the medical field, that is a lot more comforting to them and reassuring that they're going to be getting the help they need, as opposed to a 20-something-year-old who got their PN1, who doesn't understand what it's like having kids, running a business, working, 72-hour shifts. I think that probably does add to it.
So speaking of staying in our lanes, let's talk about how you come to working with AR.
How did I come to working with AR?
Yeah. So we got on a call. Right, you came in through an ad. If I
back up. No.
Right. Okay, I'll let you tell your side of the story. Let's hear it.
I had followed you, and I don't consume a lot of social media. You were an account that it wasn't that you were saying anything that we hadn't necessarily implemented yet. There was tidbits here and there that I was like, it was like mostly when it came to sales. And I would send your shit to Jennifer all the time. I was like, we got to use this kind of language. We got to use this verbiage. We got to do this. But a lot of things that you were talking about were things that I implemented early on in the business. Having a Facebook group, Facebook's not dead, things like that. I remember that post and I was like, now I'm listening because you speak my language. You understand the way I think, but you've done something else. And I thought you were a business consultant. Mm-hmm. And I had on my radar, because we got kicked in the balls this year, like month after month. I had on my radar, I was like, as long as we do the November and December that we are targeted to do, that we set up to do, Mike's going to be on our call for January because we need a consultant to come in. And then I engaged with your content. AR reached out to me and you're like, let's just hop on a quick 20-minute call. And I'm thinking, I'm going to get on a consulting call with this guy. Now you can take over.
Yeah. And so I remember specifically on the call, you're like, wait, you have a software?
Yeah.
You
Within
guys
the first
had
5
one in
minutes.
place, right? You guys had HubSpot in place. You had a lot of things working and you guys were getting
we had things. They were not working by any means. We dumped
Well,
probably about $16,000 into a CRM that was fucking garbage this year.
And I think that we really got down to the nitty gritty, and it was like you guys were getting in like 200 new Facebook group members a month. I was
And
like,
I
how
kept
many
telling
new
you,
clients are you getting? You're like 7 a month. And I was like, well, you guys don't have a lead problem. You have a flow problem and a funnel problem. And you went, oh shit, we do. We don't need more people in the Facebook group. We just need to convert more of what we have.
It was the first, you were the first consultant we had spoken to that had an interview with that straight up looked at us in the face. We're like, no, you're wrong. It's not your lead problem. It's your conversion problem. And the second Jennifer and I heard that, our brains were like, wow, we are blind.
Well, it's funny because oftentimes, like, if these are the metrics, we know our numbers. Okay, so every 200 we get 7, so we need 400.
Right.
That's how we work. But I know coaches that would die for 200 Facebook group members a month because they're converting at a 15, 25, even 30%, depending on their product.
Right.
And so it's like, I look at it from just a simple numbers game. And it's like, no, like there's too many people that are interested that we're not making a connection with. And it's the same thing I had to call the other day with a client. He like wanted to automate everything. And I was like, well, that's what you're already doing in the business, right? Like every conversation's fully automated. And then now you just need more leads. I'm like, you don't need more leads. You just need to convert what you have better.
Yep.
Because that's not scalable of just going, okay, so we're just going to get 1 million people through ads to see our page and we're going to convert 100. It's like, no, there's a lot of more broken pieces that we can save money and time and energy. So it's like, how can we get a 1-to-1 going? How can I convert 1 out of 4 people that join my group? If I can't do that, then I need to work on my funnel.
Yeah. And you're like, that's not scalable because essentially you're starting at 0 every month. And to start at 0 every month, that's exhausting. That's not scalable. That's not sustainable. There's nothing good about starting at 0 every month. But ever since AR, I remember when we first got into AR, let's say our first month, we had like a 2% conversion rate. It was really fucking bad. Actually, we started AR. We launched AR right before we went to Peru. We hired you guys. Baker was, between you and Baker, the customer experience level was unmatched, to say the least. And we told you guys, we're like, okay, great. We're about to just literally burn $6,000 that we spent last week with the CRM to have somebody come in because we believe in you so much. We're literally just going to like set it on fire with the caveat. We leave for Peru next week. November is our biggest month. And it's the only thing that we have to get back on track. We're going to be gone. We need AR built out like 90% of the way before we get back. Oh, and also we're not going to have any cell phone service for like 7 of those days that we're gone. So you guys good? And Baker was like, yep, got it. And when we got back from Peru, it was built out more than I could have ever expected. And Baker, which is also shocking because Baker's favorite thing to tell us, he goes, you guys have one of the most complex build outs I've ever done.
Yes. And just to note that fact, so for those that don't know, the size of Bradley's company is pretty large. I think, what was your monthly income when you came in to us working with us?
So we average, so this year's been bad. Our monthly income on average is about around.
Bad can be a relative term for those listening, but continue.
My apologies. It's bad for us. Our average income is about $50,000 a month. When we brought on AR in October, October was our lowest grossing month since our first month in operation. It had nothing to do with AR. It had to do with a lot of changing systems. But we came back, and this is all thanks to AR. We came back for Black Friday in November, and we actually did $8,000 more than we did last year. So we had our second official six-figure month in business in 12 months. And then December, I won't fast forward too much, but December 1st, my father passed away. And prior to that, we had actually, thanks to AR, we'd done a scholarship before the year prior. It really didn't generate much revenue. It generated, I don't know, maybe like $4,000, $5,000. We did a scholarship with AR. We had planned this all, built it out before, obviously, my father passed away. And it's only because of that scholarship that we are doing pretty well this month. That scholarship alone, I think I checked the metrics this morning. I think it's at like $27,000 to $30,000 that the scholarship brought in alone. And without that scholarship, with my father passing and everything that's happening, there's no way we would be moving the way we're moving this month.
I'd have to say Baker's built a damn good scholarship model. I got to give him 100% credit on that, and how he works it. It's beautifully done, and it works for no matter what business size you have. Obviously, just the bigger the business, the more income that it generates. But we had some interesting times because you're also a man that lives in two different houses, and you travel back and forth every 9 days at max.
Yep,
And
LA to
so,
Denver.
like, you're always on the move, and so we're creating a lot on the back end. And I'm going to say this too, is that we wanted to make sure we did a damn good job for a big business because you got a lot on the line. You basically you said, "Hey, I'm giving you full responsibility," and we took that with a heavy heart and a lot of trust, and we appreciated that. And so, to build out something so complex in a short amount of time, was a feat. But at the same time, it just goes to show that it's like, if we're able to turn something so massive around in a short amount of time, to get a coach doing 10,000 or less essentially a month onboarded,
that should be,
this is the back of our hands on what we set up for coaches. And it becomes just so easy to set up for people because we've got these proven models. We know what worked. We know what doesn't work. We see all the same mistakes everybody makes. And those that are like, Mike, I trust you. I trust the team. I want to buy into what it is you're doing, and to give us the reins, we'll take the company to the next level. But you got to give up the things that you think work, and go. Essentially, let's go back to the foundation, and let's have to forget the things that we've been taught, and let's try something different and new, because what you're currently doing is not performing the way you want it to. So let's do something different this time. That takes a lot of trust, especially pivoting such a massive cruise ship that you've essentially developed a 50 grand to do something completely different. And you're like, man, that's a hard ask you're asking me, Mike. But you did it. And so far, we're doing pretty well. And I'm looking forward to what 2024 looks like.
We're not even 3 months in, man. I mean, we're not even 3 months in. And it's funny because you talk about the big pivot. It was a big pivot in terms of moving things and all that. But when I talked to you and Baker, when I talked to Baker, it wasn't like Baker dismantled everything. Not at all. It was, okay, let's finesse this. Let's change this. Let's add in this here. And since we've had AR, we've come out with, I think, 4 different lead generation funnels. We've had a scholarship, which makes it a 5th one.
Mm-hmm.
We have increased our engagement in our Facebook group just from being in the AR funnel group, just from conversations with Baker, just from conversations with Mike. We have changed the nature of how, don't look at my social media for like the last 15 days. And the fact that there's any social media is unbelievable right now. But we've changed the nature of how we do social media, mostly within the Facebook group. We used to post incessantly in that Facebook group, incessantly. I mean, granted, things have happened, but now, I mean, I post maybe like once a week, but I also make sure to go live once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And Jennifer actually sent you guys a message the other day, was like, okay, boys, here's what we want to do for 2024. And what other tricks up your sleeve do you have? Because we know there are more tricks up your sleeve, and every tool that you guys have pulled out of your pocket has worked. Maybe it didn't work right away, but it's worked. So we're like, okay, great. And for the first time, we are in a position and we're working with a company that we trust, that we can finally, for the first year, this will be year 4 next year in business, that we can go, great, let's map out 12 months. Let's actually map it out so that every month it's not react. There's a game plan in place. And from a business owner, and for any of you out there that are business owners, when you hit that year 3 stride, it sucks. Year 3 sucks. Year 3 is all about business development, really looking at everything you've done and not going what's worked. You got to cut the fat. You're looking at, what am I wasting money on? What am I wasting time on? What am I so emotionally attached to that I keep doing this because it's just me? Year 3 is rough. But once we brought on AR, literally for the first time ever, Jennifer and I sat down. We're like, I think we have enough now. We have enough data to actually look at. Just in the 2.5 months we've had AR, we have enough data. We have a company that can help us do this. We have the resources to map out a game plan for 12 months. And knowing that we are going to have a game plan going into 2024 with things also probably like 50% of the way built out already, that I said 2023 was going to be our first 7-figure year. Well, some shit happened. 2024 is going to be our first 7-figure year. We'll be the second ones with AR that do 7 figures.
Well, I'm excited to see it, man. And I think that for those that are listening that are fitness coaches, business coaches, consultants, we're talking big picture, 7 figures, right? I can guarantee you that if Bradley set up the company with this type of strategy from the beginning, we wouldn't be saying that's what we want. We would be saying that's what we already have.
Oh, I'm telling you, I did not have a lot of faith in 2023, especially with the weight loss drugs coming out. I had friends that own companies. One of my buddies, literally, he owns a company. He's been in the business longer than I have online. He almost closed up shop. I don't know if he closed up shop. He went back to personal training in person. Once the weight loss drugs came out, he was just like, we're never going to compete with this. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm going, yeah. So that's not going to stop us because that's not changing what we do. And
yeah.
Again, for the first time, like 2023, there was many months, 6 or 7 months where it was keeping the lights on. My hope, my enthusiasm, my faith, my desire was not 0 to nothing to less. Since AR, it's the first time that I can sit there and go, right, what was that vision again? I want to help as many people as possible. And in turn, we are going to have a 7-figure year.
You know what? It's one thing I think to keep in mind there that you said is that you're forecasting what you want to do. A lot of coaches that we work with are so worried about, okay, well, am I going to be able to pay you guys next month? And it's like, so you already believe it's not going to work? Because if it worked, you wouldn't be worrying about paying for it, right? It's like when you bought that car, did you worry about making the payment next month, or did you worry about how you were going to feel driving this new car? It's like, I need you to have that trust that you are going to figure it out and we are going to figure it out as a team, because that's my job. All right. So one thing, like I think for you, and I'm talking about our I4 method for a second, is that a lot of what we were missing on your end is education and interactions, right? So there's 4 I's to running any successful service-based business, in my opinion. And it's insights, it's interactions, it's impact, and then income. And oftentimes we try to go straight for the income and we do not do any of the insights, which is our education. So we're not teaching anything, which is why we now have 4 different lead magnets that are able to educate people. And because we give them that, we're gathering data, which then allows us to have interactions, because now we're going to set up automations in the business through our software to start conversations with people, which the more conversations we have, Bradley always says it best, the more hands you shake, the more deals you make. We need more handshakes. So how do we do that? Well, we put the automations into place. Instead of just focusing on getting the client, creating impact, and that's income, like that works really great for those that are ready to take action right now. But the way that the business doesn't have that feast or famine is to constantly have leads coming in, not of just those ready to purchase your service right now or your product right now, but those that are wanting to learn from you so that we can sell next month or in 2 weeks from now, or maybe even 9 months from now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you just said, example, like I've been following you for a little bit of time. You didn't click something on my website and purchase.
Never
You
even looked
didn't
at your
fill out an
site.
application. You got something for free and we started conversation. So like I try to get coaches on a lot of calls that I have is like, you didn't get on a call with me through the same methods that you're using. You got them through my methods. And I'm trying to give you my same methods because if I can get you on this call as a person that as a business owner is often skeptical, surely you get the person that's been following you for 2 years to have a conversation with you because they love your energy that you put out.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that you said, it's actually, I think it's probably pinned on your Instagram, was I think there's 3 kinds of people. There's the people that are ready now. I don't remember, what is it? You say it all
Yeah.
the time.
So there's people that you essentially have the 3% or the people that are ready to take action. They're bold and brave and ready to take action. Bold and brave are going to be the individuals that we know that are 35, maybe even 50 pounds overweight, but they're the ones dancing at the wedding. They're the class clown. They're the ones that don't care, that are super confident. I don't know a lot of those people.
No.
And then you have those that are ready to take action. And those that are ready to take action is somebody that something traumatic has happened in my life and I have to do this. And so, for example, I'm 45, 50 pounds overweight, pre-diabetic. But my aunt at 63 just died from diabetes. I'm scared to death. I need to take action right now. And then every week that goes by, that person gets a little more comfortable and a little more comfortable. And finally, the fear of dying goes away. And all of a sudden, they're just still pre-diabetic and if not rolling into diabetes. So at one point, there was ready to take action. And they just so happened to run across your page at the right time, at the right moment. And they're like, let's do this. But that's a very few amount of people that are willing to do that.
Oh,
The
yeah.
other 97% of people follow you because they love what you do. They love who you are. They love the message that you put out. They love what you stand for. And then your job is to essentially educate them, make them problem aware, give them an opportunity to join something, get something, learn something. And then the biggest mistake the coaches make is understanding that we want to break the ice. I don't want to ask somebody else to message me or break the ice because that would mean they have to take action. And the number one
And
thing
nobody's
that
gonna do that.
every single person lacks is taking action. So
Yeah.
we take the action for you. And if you've ever had somebody like, hey man, I appreciate you reaching out. I've been meaning to do so. AKA I'm scared to death to talk to you.
Yep.
And so we got to meet the lead where they're at versus where we want them to be.
And then nurture them. I had people just in the last month. I know one lady, she just signed up for our year membership. She's been following me and Jennifer for, and the company for about 2 years. And I recognize her name from Facebook groups. I remember, I was like, when she got on a call with us, I was like, why does your name sound so familiar? I was like, were you and I'm pretty good at remembering members. Or at least they're tagged at least in the CRM. And she's like, no, she goes, I've just been following you guys around 2 years. She's been following us around. She bought a year package. Was it worth the nurture for 2 years? Yes, absolutely. 1,000%. There is a woman who was part of my original 12 people I worked with after we did the sample study. She did the 12 weeks. She knew the program worked. She's been gone since. She moved. She had a baby. Life happened. Because she's still in our free Facebook group, during the scholarship, she sent in an application for a scholarship. Who do you think won a partial scholarship? Absolutely. And this person hasn't been, the last time she was a member, the last time I spoke to her, my daughter wasn't born. My daughter's 3 years old. So what Mike is saying is exactly like, there is going to be a very small percentage of people. And I got lucky. Most of you that are listening to this podcast probably got lucky during the pandemic. You had a mediocre offer. Maybe it was a great offer. You could have had a half-ass offer that delivered half-ass results, but you had a captive audience. So you blew up during the pandemic. And now real life is back again. And guess what? Real life means people are busy. They're being inundated with shit on social media. You need to, not only do you need to have a really good offer, but these people need to feel safe and comfortable. I can't tell you, nothing drives me crazier on social media. And this is why I don't consume a lot. Where people send me a DM, do this. You know how hard that is to send a DM? It's a lot easier to comment an emoji. And the only way that really works, in my opinion, is in your free Facebook group. I can do that in a free Facebook group. I'll be like, drop a wave if you want our new menopausal weight loss guide. And we'll have 60 people drop a wave. I could put that on my personal Facebook page, which is much bigger than my Instagram. I'll get a 10th. I put on that on Instagram, not a single fucking comment.
Well, let's dive into why you think that is, because I have my theory.
Well, first of all, I say it all the time. I'm like, Instagram is an ocean. Your free Facebook group is a pond. That's one, in my opinion.
Okay, I like that.
Is a pond. So you can go out with a fishing pole into the ocean, and what are your odds of catching a fish? Probably less likely than a small little pond if we have the same amount of fish. Okay. My personal Facebook page, there's some things we've had some issues with Facebook. So my personal Facebook page used to blow up with stuff like that. But on Instagram, first of all, they're not a captive audience. Your first thing you have to do on Instagram, the first thing you do, and you have literally a thumb scroll, you have to stop them from scrolling. That's one. You have to stop them somehow when they're being inundated with everybody else's shit. In your free Facebook group, you have a captive audience. These people want to be educated. They're there because they want to learn something. They want something from you. So if you put something out there saying, comment a wave and you'll get this, first of all, they've already joined the free Facebook group. So we already broke the barrier there because they joined the free Facebook group. They've already gotten some stuff from us already. When they join our free Facebook group, they get a guide delivered to them. They've already seen us on a live once or twice. They know who we are. We're personable people. They almost feel like they're part of our family. So when we say, do you want this? And it's free and it's for menopausal women and weight loss, they don't feel scared to do that because we're also not hounding them for a sale. We're saying, hey, do you want this? That's it. Do you want this? And so, of course, they're going to feel comfortable. They're in a safer place. They also aren't being hounded in the DMs. They're saying, okay, well, I joined this Facebook group because I chose to join this Facebook group. Nobody asked me to. I chose to do this on my own.
Because they're wanting to learn from you.
Right. I chose to do this on my own versus on Instagram. And you say, do you want this? It's like that Chris Rock joke. Sorry. Do you know the Chris Rock joke I'm talking about? I think it's Chris Rock. And he goes, being a man and being a single man, it's really all you're doing around is holding your dick around going, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? And when somebody says, yes, I want this, you get so excited. That's what Instagram is. It's not a personal experience unless you're one of the very few that truly have that kind of captive audience on Instagram. And I think that's really hard to build. But when
I
you
also
build
think
it with
creating content that's so captivating is also extremely difficult.
And exhausting and expensive. And again, the analogy I go back to is Instagram's an ocean. I've never put a lot of time in. That's not true. Ever since I've done this now, I haven't invested time into Instagram. Do I make the reels? Do I do that? Yeah. Does it get pushed to my Facebook group? Sure. Where do I invest most of my time? In my free Facebook group, developing new guides. How do I create more value within that group? What can I do to serve these people more that aren't giving us $1? How do I do more of that? Because those are the people that will, first of all, appreciate what you do. It doesn't matter how many likes you get on your fucking reel or views. Like, that's not the person who's going to appreciate it. The person who's going to appreciate it who is when you say, we built this guide, it's free. Do you want it? They get sent the guide and they have valuable information there that they can implement. And then with AR, that's where AR really comes in because that guide turns into a lead magnet. And there is a series of messages. Also, yes, of course, we're trying to get them on a call, but also that call is just a 20-minute discovery call where, hey, how's the guide working for you? What are you struggling with there? You know what? You're struggling with that. Why don't you go to our website to get a free macro assessment? And then why don't we follow up in about 2 weeks? Or the AR is going through the automation and it gets to a point, we only set it up so far so that one of us can jump in and actually provide some value and help these people. And that's going to turn into I don't want to say it's not going to turn into a sale. It's going to turn into a loyal member. It's going to turn into an opportunity. Forget that. It's going to turn into somebody who is probably going to work the program the way it's designed. They're going to trust in the program. And guess what? When they get not even the weight loss, when they no longer feel guilty about food, when they feel like they can eat dinners with their family, when they can go on vacation and not come back 10 pounds heavier, or if they come out a couple of pounds heavier, they know exactly where to go. That's going to be the person who is going to be much more valuable in terms of a marketing perspective than any dollar you spend in an ad. That's what it turns out to be, because you've nurtured them, because they were scared. They're the scared person in the corner at the party, and you brought them in. You're like, hey, meet this person, and you walk them around the room. And you know what? Maybe they're not ready to talk to anybody. You go, hey, are you ready now to talk to anybody? And you walk them around the room again. They're going to remember that interaction much more than anything you do on Instagram.
I love how you took my analogy.
I did.
Okay, so there's a few things here I want to unpack. And the first one, in my opinion, on why people will engage inside of a Facebook group versus Instagram or TikTok for that matter, is this. Let's take church as an example. When the pastor says, hey, if you're struggling with X, Y, and Z, just walk forward. Okay, so typically what happens is that he's like, you know, he or she, whatever you go to, says, hey, if you've got something heavy on your heart and you feel like it's calling you to give that up, everyone else close your eyes, bow your heads, and then just come forward and just give that to us to take off of you. Let us remove that burden. And then you think about it, and then all of a sudden all these nerves hit you. Like, do I want to be embarrassed and walk forward because I'm not perfect? And then a lot of people do. Now let's change this scenario. If the pastor doesn't ask anybody to close their eyes, doesn't ask them to bow their heads, aka open Instagram comments, and says, hey, if you're struggling with being an alcoholic, walk forward. Who in their right mind is going to be like, hey, that's me, man. I'm just a pretty shitty dad. I'm just going to step on up. Not very many people. Just those that are hurting so bad,
right,
that they will take the public ridicule to fix themselves for their family. Mm-hmm. Not most people, just the bold, brave, and ready to take action.
And maybe half of those, actually.
Right, because it's such a fear. Because who wants to comment the word fat loss and just admit that I'm fat and I need help? No one wants to do that. No matter what the call to action is, I have to say, hey, I'm struggling. Publicly, I need help. No one wants to do that. I don't want to do that.
No.
Right? In the private Facebook group, it is now a collective of people that are exactly where you're at.
Yep.
And so now you're in more of a safe space. Not anybody and everybody can see this comment. It's just those that also are going through the same things and the same struggles. And the analogy that essentially Bradley kind of talked about here is something I use quite often. And if you have a dead Facebook group, this, in my opinion, is why. You ask people to join a Facebook group, they come in and they don't comment, they don't do anything. They're just a fly on the wall. And this analogy is the same as that when I will go to a Halloween party and I'm dressed up like Forrest Gump wearing short shorts and I feel like I look stupid, my insecurity is at an all-time high, and I go to that party and I don't know anybody there, the first thing I do is I go grab a drink, I go stand in the corner and I go, I hope to God somebody I know shows up. Mm-hmm. But the party's a lot different when I know the host and I'm texting the host and I'm like, hey, Bradley, I just want to let you know, man, I'm on my way. I'm going to be there in 5 minutes. And he's like, okay, awesome. I'll see you when you get here. And then when I show up, he's like, hey, man, what's going on? Let me introduce you to Sarah. Let me introduce you to John. Let me introduce you to Mark. And instantly, I'm now in a connection with other people. And that awkwardness of not knowing anybody goes away because Bradley don't know it yet, but we're texting. We're best friends. And that's essentially what we create, which is why you've had the higher engagement rate. Because we're talking before you go into a group, because now that person doesn't want to be on the fly on the wall. They're like, man, I'm texting the owner of this group. I'm important. Mm-hmm. I feel heard. I feel seen. I want to learn from them because we're talking on a one-to-one level. No one else is doing that in the industry. Which
And I
is
think
why we
that's
have
one of
something, in my opinion, that's working so well, is because for once we're building an intimate connection prior to payment.
Yep. And like you were saying, you use the word intimate connection. I'm guessing, and just from what I've seen, you primarily work with people that are going to work with people that want to lose weight. And it's no different than the alcoholic or whatever. That is the person who wants to lose weight. They may know it, but there is some shame attached to it. I say all the time. I put up a reel. I was like, the quantifiable thing we do is weight loss. But what are we really doing? We're helping people heal emotionally from all the feelings that come with that lack of weight loss. And for anybody to expect somebody to trust them with such a personal, deep-rooted pain without developing that personal connection, you sound like a sleazy fucking car salesman. You do. And AR makes it so that interpersonal connection that so many of us have spent so many hours trying to nurture in the DMs, trying to keep up with, and doing it really freaking half-assed, to be honest. They make that so much easier and so much more, I don't want to say tangible, but so much more relatable to the person that by the time they talk to you, they've gotten value. They trust you. You've listened. And so when it comes to showing them what you do and showing them your offer, it's not a matter of do they want your offer. It's a matter of can they afford to pay for your offer. They want the offer. There's no denying that. It's can they afford it? And that's all it comes down to.
I think also too, for those thinking, yeah, but Mike, I see a lot of people, like there's a lot of big coaches doing the DM thing or just only doing applications. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. Bradley had a 1.7 conversion rate, still making 50,000 because of the size of the group. Do you personally have 200,000 followers, or do you have a Facebook group with 7,000 people in it? So you don't have the volume game. So your 3% is going to be very, very small in comparison to the person that's spent years building this audience.
Yep.
Do note that their conversion is still garbage. But for you, as the coach doing less than 10,000 or less than 20,000 followers, your conversion rate will also be garbage. The difference is the volume amount of money you bring in is going to be little compared to theirs. So just because they're doing it doesn't mean it's optimal. It just pays them enough money that they're okay with. But putting in a real strategy besides just that could make that person going from 20 a month to 100 in the next 6 to 8 months. But
Yeah,
they just don't know the difference. And so we try to set up as, hey, I want you to stop being a trainer and start being a business owner and running in that model.
And that's a huge difference. The mindset for that is different. And trying to look at the big, what was that?
Go ahead. You can let you finish.
No, I was just saying, for the people just starting out, if you're looking at the 100,000 plus accounts and you're trying to model your business after that, quit while you're ahead. Quit while you're ahead, because they're playing a much different game than you are. A much different game. It's no different than if you have a personal training business. If you do online like fitness and stuff, you start with the basics. You start with hip hinge, knee flexion. You go through all the basics. So if you're trying to play the numbers game and the volume game, selling a $99 ebook or program, and you've got, like me, I've got 1,500 or 1,400 followers on Instagram, and you're expecting to be that next, 100 plus thousand person account and make the money they do, you're not establishing the basics first. They can do that because they've created a behemoth of an account and somehow they've created trust and all that. That's not the game you're playing, and you're going to lose every single time.
It's not often I see somebody find success in that route. Not at all.
No. And at the end of the day, we all want to work. We want to work smarter, not harder. Last time I checked, I don't want to work. I already work too much. My goal, I'm like, the only reason I want to build a 7-figure company is not because of the money. I want that so that I can spend most of my time being daddy. That's what we all want. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, it's really basic math. If you want to do $99 packages, how many do you have to do to get to where you want to be to have financial freedom? If you're doing let's say $3,000 packages or $10,000 packages. How many people do you have to work with to have financial freedom?
Big difference.
You were going to say
I
something
had a call
before.
yesterday with a person that was lower ticket, and she was like, I just don't want to do the one-on-one because I don't enjoy it. I'm like, okay, well, this is why. She's like, but I have 500,000 on TikTok. I go, okay. So now we change the direction because you're not the average individual. So you can do things that are not average. Right? Could you make more money doing it this way? Absolutely. But you don't want to, but you now have options. Most coaches don't have those type of options. Right? She
No.
set herself up differently than most people. Most people like want to start monetizing. She built an audience and then decided to monetize. Two completely different things. But I'm going to change directions here. I'm going to learn some things about you for a second. What's the biggest takeaway that a client has taught you?
Oh, man. What is the biggest takeaway that a client has taught me? Okay. One of the biggest takeaways. So we had a client, and again, it's been a long time since I've worked with members directly. I still have interactions with them. But Jennifer and I were in Vegas. I remember when she signed up. She signed up in 2021, December of 2021. And she looked at her husband and she told us this story much later after. Before she signed up, she said, if you're stuck with 270 pound, we'll say A, the rest of your life will you still love me? And he said, of course. She said, I think I found something that's actually going to work this time. She runs through the program. We meet them in Vegas. We happen to be in Vegas. She was down about 70 pounds at the time. And then her husband looked me and Jennifer and said, I know, man, I know she has a lot of good things to say about you, but I want you to know that you may have helped her, but you helped me too. You gave me my wife back. You gave me her smile back. You gave me her confidence back. And that has translated it into our family. That's not the end of the story. So they went through a lot. She stopped doing the program. She was doing great. She learned how to maintain all that. She took some time off, but a lot of things happened during that time. She lost her job. One of her children got sick. And so about 7 months later, she reached out to Jennifer and I personally. I was like, I'm really embarrassed, guys, because we use her before and after. We use her story all the time. She goes, I'm really embarrassed. I've got to tell you, I put on almost all the weight back. And I'm so embarrassed. My life has just taken a really big turn. It's been really hard. And we said, great. What do you want? What do you want to do about it? She goes like, I know I can come back. I know it works. She goes, it wasn't about that. It wasn't about what you guys did. It was about my life just kind of sidetracked. And she's back now. She's back. She's good. And what did that teach me? That was the first time I think I really realized that it's like I said earlier, weight loss is the quantifiable thing that we can put our thumb on and go, that's what we do. But the emotional healing that is truly the change that people go through is really what we do. And the only way that's achieved is a one-on-one, truly personal interaction. We cap our RDs and we cap them at max 50 premium members because it's not anybody can make you lose weight. Anybody that can understand calories in, calories out, or not at all. You just eat veggies and lean proteins. That's not what you're selling. And if that's what you're selling, good for you. Good for you. But what that taught me is what we're doing is much more personal. And we have to treat it that way. We have to treat it like we are healing pain of many years. We're healing the pain of, like I said earlier, of, the negative self-talk, of being concerned that your spouse won't love you anymore, unable to be with your kids, being embarrassed and you stand behind everybody in family photos during holidays. And once I realized that, it almost completely changed the way I interact with social media, with when we're on client discovery calls, and not in a way to be like, what is the real reason that you're here? What is the real reason? Because if I ask you and you go, well, it's to lose 15 pounds. I say, okay, here's my question. If you lost those 15 pounds, but nobody noticed, but you felt good, would you be happy with that? And they say, yes. I say, okay, let's say you don't lose any weight, but your clothes fit better. You feel sexier. You feel more confident. You move better. Do you care about the weight loss? They say no. I said, right, because we don't walk around a chain like Flava Flav and our clock actually says our weight for the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the emotional part. And once you realize that weight loss is a quantifiable metric that we're working towards scientifically, absolutely. Of course, that's what we're going to work towards. But everything else that needs to be taken care of to make that weight loss truly valuable, once I realized that, it changed everything.
Can't make a mental change. You can't make a physical change without a mental change.
Correct.
The only way to keep that weight off is to mentally be in check. Because we see it all the time. People gain weight or lose weight and then gain it all right back. Because we did a thing, we didn't fix the thing. We put a
Band-Aid on it.
We put a Band-Aid.
Right. It's not about Band-Aids.
I'm glad to hear that, because I think a lot of people need to understand that, because a lot of coaches feel like, man, I feel like I'm, more of a counselor than a fitness trainer. I'm like, it's because you are.
Because you are. And again, stay in your lane to an extent.
For sure. There's a big difference. You should know when you mental help and then helping somebody through something. Right.
Correct.
But this is the impact that we talk about inside the, the eye forward, is like, that's the real impact that you make. It's not the weight loss. That is a benefit of life changing.
Right.
Right.
And for that particular member to feel safe, to know that, first of all, that she's in, that the owners of the company, she can go to them being totally honest, and that we're not going to shame her for it. She knows that the program works. She took accountability, and she was comfortable enough to express that negative feeling. I mean, that's a testament to the registered dietitian she's worked with. That's a testament to, Jennifer and I, the way we behave within our private Facebook group, our members only Facebook group, and our free Facebook group. These people feel comfortable, and they know that they can come back and talk to us, and that we will give them honest feedback, and we'll put you in the right direction, and we'll take care of you.
What do you want people to take away from you?
I hate that question. Listening on the podcast, or just in general?
Just in general, whatever comes to mind, whatever's on your heart. What do you want people to take
just
away
in general? Just in general. So it's really funny. We just did a live about this yesterday. 1993 was the first time that they were going to do clinical trials on women for medical purposes. 1993. How old were you?
4.
I was 5. Why is that important to me? I have a daughter. She's 3 years old. I'm a girl dad. I have a daughter who is a minority. I'm Salvadorian. She's a quarter Salvadorian. I'm Jewish. She's Jewish. So she's a Latina, Jewish Salvadorian. The fact that the medical industry didn't start conducting clinical trials to help women until 1993 is appalling. It's disgusting. It's infuriating as a girl dad, because that means that my daughter is not going to have the same amount of knowledge.
Yeah.
What's that?
Medical advancements or knowledge. Yeah, same thing.
She's not going to have the same medical advancements or the same professionals providing the same value of knowledge to her as she gets older than if I had a son. And there's a reason we primarily help menopausal women and busy parents. Because when I could have come out with any other nutrition program, I could have come out, here's your macros, here, do this, sure. But I wanted to make sure that I left something that was going to change that narrative, because never again in my life do I want to hear that that in 1993 was the first time that my daughter's future was taken into consideration. And I want to be a part of the story that changes that narrative for her.
That's powerful. I think that's probably the biggest one I've ever heard on the podcast.
Ooh, I'll take that.
Well, where can people find you, man?
People can find me. You can find me on Instagram at Bradley A. Goldman. If you go on Facebook, it's facebook.com/nutrition built strength. That's our free Facebook group. Jennifer's Facebook, I can't even spell it. It's one blonde bombshell. I have no idea how to spell it, but you can find her all over mine. Our staff, you'll see them. Afton, Chelsea, Dawn, Luciana. We're all on Instagram. If you type in essentially nutrition built strength or NBS, you're going to find us. Nutritionbuildstrength.com. If you guys want, go use our free macro calculator. It's not the generic. We still use the Mifflin-Stationary equation, but if you go on there, you can get your macros. It'll actually give you them instantly. Then we give you 3 emails that actually shows you how to implement them using MyFitnessPal. We give you some value. Join our free Facebook group, Nutrition Build Strength. You get to see me go live and struggle to learn how to end the live every single time. It's pretty ridiculous. That's where you guys can find us.
Well, dude, man, I appreciate you being on here, dude. It's been fun to learn your journey as we've gone through it together, and I appreciate you sharing some good insight for a lot of coaches that are crushing it and a lot of those looking to crush it, man. So thank you so much for coming on today.
No, thank you. And really quick, if anybody's considering AR, stop thinking. You're 2 days late behind. You're honestly, I will vouch for this company all day, every day, twice on Sunday. So
well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
My biggest takeaway podcast.